Picture the largest city on Earth. Now fill it with 500,000 people who haven't discovered deodorant yet. Add a river choked with sewage, streets crawling with pickpockets, and a cathedral so massive it took 35 years to build. That's Georgian London, the centre of a growing empire, the filthiest metropolis in Europe, a place where you could watch a man get hanged in the morning and catch a Shakespeare play by evening. We're going back there tonight, not as tourists looking at paintings. We're living it. One day, one person, everything they would have seen, smelled, heard, and survived. So I make these history stories, and honestly I have no clue if anyone actually sleeps to them, or if you're all just weirdos who like hearing about sewage and public executions. Either way, subscribe if you want. Get comfortable. Here we go. Your eyes open to darkness. For a moment, maybe half a second, you've forgotten where you are. Then it hits you. The smell. It's not just one smell, it's layers. Horse manure from the street below, wood smoke from 1,000 chimneys, something rotting in the gutter that you don't want to think about too hard. And underneath it all, the unmistakable funk of people who haven't bathed in weeks, months maybe, including you. Welcome to London in the 1740s. You're lying on a straw-stuffed mattress in an attic room above your master's shop on Cheapside, the busiest commercial street in the entire city, maybe the entire world. Your name is Will Marsden, you're 17 years old, and you arrived here 6 months ago from a village in Essex with exactly 2 shillings in your pocket and a letter of introduction to Master Edmund Whitley, haberdasher. Back home, everyone said London would swallow you whole. They weren't wrong. The church bells are already ringing. Not just one church, dozens. St Mary le Bow is closest, its famous bells marking the time for half the city. Those are the Bow bells, by the way. You've probably heard the expression about being born within the sound of Bow bells making you a true Cockney. That's already a thing in the 1740s. The bells have been defining London identity for centuries. You need to get up. Master Whitley will have your hide if you're not at your post when the shop opens. And the shop opens early, 4 in the morning in summer, 5 in winter. The sun isn't even properly up yet, and already the street below is coming alive. The wooden floor is cold under your bare feet. Your fellow apprentice, a skinny kid named Jack from somewhere up north, is still snoring in the bed you share. Yeah, you share a bed. That's normal. Most apprentices do. Privacy is a luxury nobody at your level can afford. At least Jack doesn't kick too much. You splash some water on your face from the basin. The water is cold and slightly brown. You got it yesterday from the public pump 3 streets over, waiting in line for 20 minutes behind a woman who smelled like fish, and a man who kept muttering about the price of candles. Water doesn't come to your house through pipes, not for regular folks. You fetch it, bucket by bucket from whatever source you can find. Your clothes are where you left them. A rough linen shirt that's seen better days, breeches that end just below the knee, wool stockings and leather shoes with buckles that need polishing. Your waistcoat is your one bit of pride. It's brown, nothing fancy, but it marks you as a tradesman in training rather than a common labourer. Appearances matter in this city. They matter more than almost anything. By the time you get downstairs, Master Whitley is already in the shop, arranging bolts of fabric on the wooden counter. He's a round man with a red face and surprisingly delicate hands. Those hands can tell the difference between Dutch linen and Flemish linen just by touch. He's taught you about half of what he knows, and already your head is swimming with information about thread counts and dye quality. and which merchants are trustworthy and which ones will sell you damaged goods at full price. "You're late," he says without looking up. "You're not late." He says this every morning. You've learned not to argue. The shop is small by London standards, maybe 20 feet wide and twice as deep. The front opens directly onto Cheapside with wooden shutters that fold down to create a counter for displaying goods. Behind that, shelves lined with every kind of haberdashery you can imagine. Ribbons, buttons, lace, pins, needles, thread in more colours than you knew existed, buckles for shoes and breeches, hooks and eyes for corsets. It's not glamorous, but it's honest trade, and Cheapside is the place to do it. You've been here 6 months, but the scale of this street still amazes you. Back in Essex, your whole village probably had fewer people than this single street holds at any given moment. The name Cheapside comes from the Old English word for marketplace, and that's exactly what it is. One long, continuous market stretching from St. Paul's Cathedral at one end to the Poultry at the other. And speaking of St. Paul's, when Master Whitley sends you out on your first errand of the day, collecting a package from a supplier near the cathedral, you take the long way, just to see it again. Every time it takes your breath away. Sir Christopher Wren's St. Paul's Cathedral, completed in 1710 after the Great Fire of 1666, burned the old medieval one to the ground. The dome rises above everything else in London, visible from miles away, 365 feet tall. They say Wren designed it so you can see it from any point in the city. You believe it. This morning, with the early light hitting the pale Portland stone, it almost glows. The dome catches the sun before anything else. Birds circle around the cross at the very top. Pigeons mostly, but you've seen hawks up there too, hunting the pigeons. Even the wildlife in London is brutal. You stand there for a moment, just looking. A country boy, staring at the greatest church in England, maybe in the world. The men who built this were still alive when you were born. Your own grandfather might have watched them hoisting the stones into place. It's that recent, that real. But you can't stand there forever. The package won't collect itself. The streets around St. Paul's are already crowded. And when I say crowded, I need you to understand what that means in Georgian London. This isn't modern crowded, where you might have to weave between people on a busy sidewalk. This is chaos. This is survival. First, there are no sidewalks. Not really. Some of the nicer streets have raised footpaths along the sides, but on most streets, you're sharing space with everything. Pedestrians, horses, carts, carriages, sedan chairs carried by sweating men in livery, street vendors with their barrows, beggars with their hands out, dogs, pigs. Yes, pigs. People keep pigs in London. They roam the streets eating garbage. It's actually useful. The pigs, I mean. They're the closest thing to a sanitation system in some neighbourhoods. The noise is incredible. Vendors shouting their wares. Hot pies, milk below, fresh milk, lavender, sweet lavender, knives to grind, any knives to grind. Everyone is yelling because everyone else is yelling, and if you don't yell, nobody hears you. Add to that the clatter of cartwheels on cobblestones, the clip-clop of horses, the squealing of pigs, the barking of dogs, and the constant murmur of thousands of conversations happening simultaneously. You've mostly learned to navigate it. Mostly. The key is to never stop moving and never make eye contact with anyone who looks like they want something from you. Because everyone in London wants something. Like right now, a woman is approaching you with a basket of oranges. She's probably legit. Oranges come in from Spain and Portugal, and there's good money in selling them on the street. But then again, There's also good money in distracting some country boy while her partner lifts his purse from behind. You don't have a purse to lift. Everything you own is back at Master Whitley's shop, so you just shake your head and keep walking. The woman moves on to her next target. The supplier you're visiting has a shop near Ludgate Hill, on the road that leads down from St Paul's toward the Fleet River. The Fleet isn't really a river anymore, it's more of an open sewer. They've been trying to cover it over for years, and parts of it are already built over, but down here near where it meets the Thames you can still see it, and smell it. Oh God, can you smell it? The package is ready. A bundle of silk ribbons from a merchant who imports from France. Relations with France are complicated right now. They usually are, but trade still happens. Money doesn't care about politics. On your way back, you cut through a narrow alley to save time. This is always a gamble. Alleys can be shortcuts or they can be traps. This one is a shortcut, mostly. A woman is emptying a chamber pot from an upper window, but she shouts, "Gardy-loo," first, which gives you time to jump back before the contents splash onto the street. Gardy-loo is a corruption of the French gardez-l'eau, watch out for the water, except it's not water. It's very much not water. The streets have a central gutter for drainage. In theory, everything flows toward the river. In practice, everything just sort of sits there until it rains hard enough to wash it away. You've seen things in those gutters you'd rather not think about. Dead animals, human waste. Occasionally things that might have once been human. London is not a gentle place. But here's the thing. Despite all of this, you're starting to love it. Back in Essex, every day was the same. You knew everyone. You knew exactly what your life would be. Farm work until you were old enough to take over your father's holding, marry someone from the next village over, have children, watch them grow up to do exactly the same thing. London is different. London is possibility. The merchant who runs the silk ribbon shop started as an apprentice just like you, and now he owns 3 properties in the city. The coffee house owner on the corner of Cheapside was a sailor who jumped ship 20 years ago with nothing but the clothes on his back. Master Whitley himself came up from Kent as a young man, and now he's a freeman of the city, entitled to vote and serve on juries and call himself a proper Londoner. That could be you. That's the dream anyway. 7 years of apprenticeship and then you become a journeyman working for wages. Save enough money, prove your skills to the guild, and eventually you can set up your own shop. Become a master yourself. Take on your own apprentices. Build something. It happens. It actually happens. Not for everyone, obviously. Most apprentices fail. They get into trouble, or they get sick, or they just can't hack it and go back to wherever they came from. But some of them make it. And this is the only city in England where making it is even a possibility. The package delivered, you return to the shop just as the morning rush is starting. Cheapside is famous for many things, but mostly it's famous for shopping. This is where London comes to buy. The shops are arranged roughly by trade. The haberdashers are mostly on one stretch. The goldsmiths have their own section. The mercers, who deal in finer fabrics than haberdashers, have another. If you want silk, you know where to go. If you want pewter, there's a street for that. If you want a wig, and everybody wants a wig, even if they can't quite afford a good one, there are wig makers clustered together near the Poultry. The customers are already arriving. A merchant's wife, accompanied by a servant who carries her purchases, a young gentleman in a blue coat who looks like he's never worked a day in his life and probably hasn't, an older woman in plain clothes who haggles over every penny, because in her world every penny matters. Master Whitley handles the wealthy customers himself. You get the penny pinchers. This is part of your education. Learning how to sell to people who don't want to be sold to. Learning how to make them feel like they got a bargain even when they paid full price. Learning the subtle art of commerce that separates the successful merchants from the ones who go bankrupt within a year. 2 shillings for a yard of this ribbon, the older woman is saying, holding up a length of blue silk. I'll give you 1 6. 1 shilling 6pence. You know perfectly well that the ribbon cost Master Whitley 1 shilling 4pence. At 1 6 you'd be making a profit of 2pence per yard. At 2 shillings 8pence. That difference, multiplied across hundreds of transactions, is the difference between a successful business and a failing one. Madam, you say, this ribbon comes from Lyon. French silk, the finest quality. Feel the weight of it. Feel the smoothness. You won't find better anywhere on Cheapside. This is true, actually. Master Whitley doesn't stock garbage. French silk, she sniffs, as if that means anything. It means the dye won't fade. It means the weave won't unravel. It means that 5 years from now this ribbon will look as good as it does today. She's weakening. You can see it in her eyes. 1 shilling and 10, she says. You pretend to think about it. 1 and 11, you counter, and I'll throw in a packet of French pins, the ones with the brass heads. The pins cost about a farthing. The sale is worth the sacrifice. Done, she says, and you've just completed your first real negotiation of the day. This is your life now. This endless hustle, this constant dance of buying and selling, this immersion in the greatest commercial city the world has ever known. And it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning yet. Outside, the streets of Cheapside are in full roar. The sun is properly up now, streaming between the buildings, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. Somewhere nearby, a church clock strikes the hour. The bells of St. Mary le Bow join in, their sound carrying across the whole of London, marking time for 500,000 people who are all, in their own ways, trying to make their way through another day in this impossible, beautiful, terrifying city. The morning is just getting started. The river is waiting, and there's so much more of London to see. Your feet are already aching, but you barely notice. There's work to do, customers to serve, a city to learn. And somewhere out there in this maze of streets and alleys and ancient churches and brand new buildings rising from the ashes of the Great Fire, your future is taking shape. You just don't know what it looks like yet. None of us ever do. The morning rushes past in a blur of customers and haggling and bolts of fabric unfurled across the counter. You sell ribbons and buttons and packets of pins. You wrap purchases in brown paper and tie them with string. You sweep the floor twice because Master Whitley likes a clean shop, and dust settles fast on Cheapside. Around 10 o'clock, just as your stomach starts reminding you that breakfast was a long time ago, Master Whitley calls you over. I need you to go to Southwark, he says. Your stomach drops. Southwark is south of the river. South of the river means crossing the Thames, and crossing the Thames means one of 2 things. Either you take a boat, which costs money you don't have, or you walk across London Bridge. You've been avoiding London Bridge. There's a merchant on Tooley Street, Master Whitley continues, handing you a small leather pouch. Name's Cornelius Pratt. Deals in bone buttons. These are samples he sent over last week. Tell him the quality is acceptable, but the price is robbery. Offer him 2/3 what he's asking. He'll counter. Don't go above 3/4. He looks at you, waits. 3/4, you repeat. Not a penny more. Good lad, and take the bridge. The watermen are thieves. So that's that. The bridge it is. You head east on Cheapside, past the goldsmith shops and the mercers with their fine silks displayed in windows. The street narrows as you approach the poultry, which is exactly what it sounds like. Chickens, ducks, geese, dead ones hanging in shop windows, live ones squawking in cages, the smell of poultry and blood and feathers mixing with everything else. Past the poultry, the road becomes Lombard Street, then Gracechurch Street. The names change every few hundred yards in this city. You're basically walking in a straight line, but you'll cross through 5 or 6 differently named streets before you reach the bridge. The crowds thicken as you get closer to the river. Everyone is going somewhere. Merchants with account books tucked under their arms, porters bent double under impossible loads, women carrying baskets of vegetables from the markets, children running messages for a halfpenny, beggars with their hands out, a man selling roasted chestnuts from a cart, the smell cutting through everything else and making your empty stomach growl. And then you see it. London Bridge. From a distance, it doesn't look like a bridge at all. It looks like a street that happens to have water underneath it. Buildings rise up on both sides, 4 and 5 stories tall, leaning toward each other across the roadway. The gaps between the buildings are so narrow that in places they've built rooms connecting one side to the other, turning the whole thing into a tunnel. A covered street suspended over the Thames. This bridge has been here for over 500 years. Not this exact bridge. They've rebuilt parts of it dozens of times. Fires, floods, the arches collapsing under the weight of all those buildings. But the basic structure, the stone piers driven into the riverbed, those have been here since 1209. Your grandparents' walked across this same bridge, and it's still the only way to cross the Thames on foot anywhere near London. There was supposed to be another bridge at Westminster, but the watermen fought it for decades. 10,000 watermen work this river, ferrying passengers back and forth, and they didn't want competition from a bridge that would let people walk for free. They finally lost that battle a few years back. Westminster Bridge opened in 1750. But you're nowhere near Westminster right now, and anyway, that bridge is for rich people heading to Parliament. Regular folks use London Bridge. You join the flow of people heading onto the bridge from the north side. The entrance is marked by a gatehouse, though the gate itself stands open during daylight hours. Above the gatehouse, mounted on iron spikes, you can see skulls. Old ones, weathered and grey. They used to put traitors' heads up there after executions. The practice has mostly stopped now, but nobody's bothered to take down the old skulls. They just sit there, watching everyone who passes underneath. Welcome to London Bridge. The roadway is narrow, maybe 12 feet wide, and that 12 feet has to accommodate everyone going both directions, plus the shopkeepers who've set up displays in front of their establishments, plus the occasional cart or sedan chair trying to push through. The result is chaos. You're immediately pressed into a crowd moving at roughly the speed of cold honey. A large woman with a basket of fish is directly in front of you. The fish smell is powerful. Behind you, someone is muttering about being late for something. To your left, the shop windows display everything from gloves to spectacles to books to clocks. To your right, more of the same. The buildings lean inward overhead. In some places, the upper stories actually touch, blocking out the sky entirely. It's dark here in the middle of the day. Candles burn in shop windows even though it's barely noon. And the noise. God, the noise. Shopkeepers calling out their wares, customers haggling, the constant shuffle of hundreds of feet on wooden planks. Somewhere ahead, an argument is brewing. You can hear raised voices but can't see what's happening. There's no way to see what's happening. You can barely see 3 feet in front of you. The crowd stops moving, just stops. You're pressed against the fish basket lady, who turns and glares at you like it's your fault. "Cart stuck," someone shouts from up ahead. "Wheels come off." A groan ripples through the crowd. A stuck cart on London Bridge can take an hour to clear. There's nowhere for it to go. No side streets to pull into. No way to turn around. When something blocks the bridge, everything just stops until someone fixes it. But you've got 3/4 of a shilling's negotiating room and a merchant waiting in Southwark. So you do what any apprentice would do. You look for a gap. There. Between 2 buildings, a narrow passage leads to a stairway going down. A sign above it reads the 3-ton stairs. Stairs on London Bridge means one thing: a way down to the water. You squeeze through the passage past a woman selling hot pies and a man who might be a pickpocket or might just be standing there, and you find the stairs. Wooden steps, slick with river damp and something you don't want to think about, leading down between the buildings to a small landing at water level. And there's the Thames. You've seen it before, obviously. You can't live in London and not see the Thames, but usually you see it from a distance from the embankment, a wide ribbon of brown water with boats on it. From down here, at water level, wedged between the massive stone piers of London Bridge, it's something else entirely. The water is rushing, roaring almost. See, the bridge acts like a dam. Those 19 stone piers, each one as wide as a house, they block most of the river's flow. The water has to squeeze through the narrow arches between the piers, and when it does, it speeds up. A lot. At certain tides, the water drops 5 feet on one side of the bridge compared to the other. The current through the arches can hit 8 or 9 miles per hour. Fast enough to flip a boat. Fast enough to kill. The watermen have a term for it. Shooting the bridge. If you want to take a boat from one side of London Bridge to the other, you either get out, walk across, and get a new boat on the far side. Or you find a waterman crazy enough to shoot the bridge with you in the boat. Right now, watching the water thunder through the arch next to you, shooting the bridge seems like something only a lunatic would attempt. "Oars! Oars!" The cry comes from your left. A waterman in a small boat, a wherry, is pulling up to the landing. He's got the look. Weather-beaten face, arms like ship ropes, missing a few teeth. These men spend their whole lives on the river. It's a trade, passed down through families for generations. "Southwark?" he asks, seeing you hesitate at the bottom of the stairs. "How much?" "6pence." You laugh. Actually laugh. "6pence to go 200 yards. I'll give you 2pence. 4pence. And I'm doing you a favour. Bridge is blocked up there. You'll be an hour getting across." He's not wrong. You can hear the shouting from the roadway above. That cart isn't going anywhere soon. 3pence, you say. He pretends to think about it. "Done. Get in." The wherry's about 20 feet long and narrow, built for speed. There's a bench in the middle for passengers and room for the waterman at the back with his oars. You step in carefully. The boat rocks under your weight. Water sloshes at the bottom. Just a few inches of wood between you and the filthy Thames. The waterman pushes off from the landing and starts rowing. His strokes are long and powerful, practiced over years. The wherry cuts through the water with surprising speed. "We going through?" you ask, nodding toward the bridge arches. Because if he's planning to shoot the bridge with you in this tiny boat, you'd like to know now so you can get out and take your chances with the stuck cart. He laughs, shows his missing teeth. "On a flood tide? I'm old boy, but I'm not tired of living. We go around. East to Battlebridge Stairs, then you walk to Tooley Street. Relief floods through you, then confusion. There's another bridge. Battlebridge. Toll Bridge. Upstream a bit. Or I could row you all the way to Suffolk Stairs, but that's sixpence, like I said. You stick with the threepence option. The waterman rows east, downstream, following the current. Other boats fill the river around you. Wherries like yours, carrying passengers. Larger barges loaded with cargo. Lighters. Flat-bottomed boats for moving goods between ships and the shore. Fishing boats. A fancy barge with livery-clad oarsmen, probably carrying some noble or merchant rich enough to travel in style. The Thames is London's highway. You knew that in theory. Now you're seeing it for real. The roads are clogged and dangerous, full of mud and criminals and traffic that never moves. But the river flows. Ships arrive here from every corner of the world. Sugar from the Caribbean, tea from China, tobacco from Virginia, cotton from India, slaves from Africa, though that's not something polite people talk about. It all comes up the Thames through the Pool of London to be unloaded at 100 wharves and warehouses. You pass the Tower of London on your left, the massive stone fortress, white at its centre, guarded by walls and moats and 700 years of bloody history. Prisoners arrived here by boat, through a gate called Traitor's Gate. Some of them left the same way, heading to execution. Others never left at all. Right now, in 1740 whatever, the tower is quieter than it used to be. It's still a prison, still holds the crown jewels, still has a garrison of soldiers, but the days of kings locking up their enemies in the dungeon are mostly over. Mostly. First time on the water? The waterman asks. Is it that obvious? You're gripping the side like you think you'll fall out. Relax. I've been doing this 40 years. Only lost 2 passengers. He grins. You can't tell if he's joking. The wherry pulls up to a set of stone stairs on the south bank. Battlebridge Stairs. You can see the bridge itself a bit upstream, a wooden structure nothing like the grand stone edifice of London Bridge. Tooley Street's that way, the waterman says, pointing. Follow the lane, turn left at the church, you can't miss it. You hand over your threepence and climb out onto the stairs. Solid ground feels strange after even that short time on the water. Southwark. It's different here. South of the river has always been different. This is where London puts the things it doesn't want to look at too closely. The bear-baiting pits, the brothels, the prisons, Marshalsea and King's Bench and the Clink, all within a few streets of each other. This is where the theatres used to be, before they moved north of the river. Shakespeare's Globe stood somewhere around here, though it burned down over 100 years ago. The streets are narrower and dirtier than Cheapside. The buildings sag. The people look harder, hungrier. You grip the leather pouch with the button samples a little tighter and walk quickly. Tooley Street isn't hard to find. Cornelius Pratt's shop sits between a tanner and a chandler. The tanning smell is something else. Rotting animal hides soaking in vats of God knows what. Your eyes water as you approach. The negotiation goes better than you expected. Pratt is a small man with ink-stained fingers and a quick way of speaking. He starts at his full asking price. You counter with 2/3. He looks offended. You point out that bone buttons aren't exactly rare goods, and Master Whitley has 3 other suppliers who'd love his business. He drops to 4/5. You hold at 2/3. He goes to 3/4, and that's exactly where Master Whitley told you to land. You shake hands. Pratt wraps up a new set of samples, improved quality, he claims, and you tuck them into your coat. The whole thing takes 20 minutes. Now you just have to get back. The bridge, you figure, should be clear by now. You head west along Tooley Street, then north toward the river. The afternoon sun is fighting through the haze of coal smoke that always hangs over London. Church bells are ringing somewhere. They're always ringing somewhere. You find the southern entrance to London Bridge and join the crowd heading north. The cart must have been cleared because traffic is moving slowly but steadily. You push into the flow of bodies and begin the crossing. It's no less chaotic than before. The shops are still hawking their goods, the fish sellers and the glovers and the spectacle makers and the bookbinders. A woman is singing somewhere, a ballad about a sailor who drowned, which seems like an odd choice for a bridge over a river, but nobody else seems bothered. About halfway across, you pass a gap between buildings and catch a glimpse of the river below. From up here, you can see downstream toward the tower, upstream toward the spires of the city. Boats everywhere, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all of them carrying something or someone, all of them part of the endless flow of commerce that keeps London alive. This bridge is going to fall down someday. Everyone knows it. The buildings are too heavy. The foundations are constantly being repaired. Every few years another arch cracks or shifts, and everyone holds their breath waiting to see if the whole thing will collapse into the Thames. But not today. Today, it holds. You emerge onto the north bank back in the city proper, just as the afternoon church bells begin to ring. 3 o'clock. You've been gone almost 4 hours. Master Whitley will have questions. The button samples will have answers, and somewhere on Cheapside there's probably a customer waiting for ribbons or lace or whatever else keeps this city's economy spinning. You've crossed the Thames and come back alive, negotiated with a Southwark merchant and won, ridden in a wherry and only moderately embarrassed yourself. Not bad for a boy from Essex who's only been here 6 months. The afternoon is waiting. Master Whitley is pleased with your negotiation. He doesn't say so directly. That's not his way. But he nods when you hand over the button samples and tell him you landed at 3/4. He turns the buttons over in his fingers, examining the quality, and nods again. Pratt's getting better, he says. These might actually sell. High praise from Master Whitley. The shop is quiet now. Mid-afternoon lull. The morning rush of housewives and servants doing their shopping has passed. The evening crowd won't arrive until the workday ends. For the next hour or so, Cheapside catches its breath. Go get yourself something to eat, Master Whitley says. You've earned it. Be back by 4. You don't need to be told twice. There's a pie shop 2 streets over that does a decent mutton pie for a penny. The mutton is mostly mutton. Probably. You try not to think too hard about what else might be in there. In London, you learn quickly not to ask too many questions about your food. The pie is hot and greasy and exactly what you need after a morning of running around. You eat it standing up, leaning against a wall, watching the street go by. A sedan chair passes, carried by 2 men in matching livery. Inside you catch a glimpse of a woman's face, powdered white, a beauty mark painted on her cheek. She doesn't look at you. People like her don't look at people like you. You finish your pie, wipe your hands on your breeches, and realise you've still got half an hour before you need to be back. So you walk. East along Cheapside, past the familiar shops, past the poultry with its squawking chickens, into the area around Cornhill. This is the financial heart of London, maybe the financial heart of the world. The Bank of England is around here somewhere, though you've never actually seen it. More importantly, just ahead, rising above the surrounding buildings, is the Royal Exchange. You've walked past it before but never gone inside. Apprentices don't really have business at the Royal Exchange. The men who trade there deal in quantities that would make Master Whitley's entire annual income look like pocket change. They're buying and selling cargoes of ships, insurance on voyages that might take years, shares in companies that own plantations on the other side of the world, but nobody's stopping you from looking. The building is massive. 2 stories of columned arcade surrounding an open courtyard. The original Royal Exchange burned down in the Great Fire of 1666. This one, rebuilt, is grander than what came before. Above the entrance, a statue of Charles II looks down at everyone passing through. Grasshoppers are carved into the stonework everywhere, the symbol of the Gresham family who founded the place back in 1565. You step through the entrance and into another world. The courtyard is packed with men, hundreds of them, standing in clusters, talking, arguing, scribbling notes, shaking hands. They're dressed better than you've ever seen anyone dressed. Silk coats in every colour. Waistcoats embroidered with gold thread. Wigs that must have cost more than you'll earn in a year. These are the merchants who run the British Empire, and they do their business right here in this open-air courtyard twice a day. The noise hits you like a wave. Everyone is talking at once. You catch snatches of conversation as you walk along the edge of the arcade trying to look like you belong here. 300 hogsheads of Virginia tobacco at 14 shillings the ship was lost off Madagascar. The underwriters are... Sugar prices won't hold, not with the French flooding the... Bengal cotton, finest quality. I've seen the samples myself. It's like standing inside a beehive. Every conversation is about money, about goods moving across oceans, about risks and rewards and the turning gears of global commerce. A bell rings somewhere above. Instantly the crowd shifts. Men who are standing in one cluster move to another. New conversations begin. The trading day is divided into sessions marked by the bells, each session dedicated to different types of business. You don't know which bell this is or what it means, but the merchants do. They've been doing this their whole lives. The arcaded walkways around the courtyard are lined with small shops. Not like the shops on Cheapside. These are boutiques for wealthy men. Fine maps and navigation instruments. Books on subjects you can't even pronounce. Luxury goods from every corner of the known world. And tucked into the galleries above, are the offices of Lloyd's of London. Insurance men who will bet on anything. Whether your ship will make it home, whether your warehouse will burn down, whether you'll live another year. Everything in London can be bought, sold, or wagered on. You stand there for maybe 10 minutes, just watching. A boy from Essex, barely 17, gawking at the men who move the world. None of them notice you. You're invisible here. Just another face in the crowd. Then someone does notice you. Looking for work? The voice comes from your left. A man, maybe 30, dressed well but not extravagantly. He's looking at you with an expression that might be amusement or might be calculation. I'm an apprentice, you say. Haberdasher, on Cheapside. Ah. His expression shifts slightly. So you're just here to gawk. You feel your face flush. I had a few minutes. Wanted to see what it was like. The man laughs, not unkindly. It's like this every day, except Sundays, and the whole thing breaks down if there's bad news from overseas. You should have seen this place when word came that the Spanish had seized a merchantman off Cadiz. Chaos, men weeping, real tears, over sugar. He shakes his head. Sugar. The cargo, worth more than the ship itself. and not insured properly because someone got greedy and skimped on the premium. When you deal in commodities, a single piece of bad news can ruin you. He looks at you with something like pity. Stick with haberdashery. It's boring, but you won't wake up bankrupt because some Spanish captain decided to be a pirate for a day. He walks off into the crowd and you never learn his name. Back outside, the air feels cleaner, relatively speaking. It's still London air, still thick with coal smoke and the smell of 500,000 people living on top of each other. But after the intensity of the exchange, even Cornhill feels peaceful. You're supposed to be back at the shop, but there's still time. And right across from the exchange you see a coffee house. Jonathan's Coffee House, according to the sign. You've heard of this one. Everyone has. This is where the stock jobbers gather. Men who buy and sell shares in joint stock companies. The South Sea Company, the East India Company, ventures in Africa and America, and places you've only heard of in stories. You can't afford coffee. Coffee costs 2p a cup, but you can afford to step inside and see what all the fuss is about. The smell hits you first. Coffee, obviously, but also tobacco. Hundreds of clay pipes being smoked at once, creating a haze that hangs in the air like fog. And underneath that, the smell of men who've been sitting in the same room for hours, drinking and smoking and arguing. The room is crowded. Every table is full. Men hunched over cups, reading newspapers, talking in low voices, occasionally erupting into loud debate. The newspapers are the key thing. Coffee houses are where you go to read the news. Most people can't afford their own subscription to the Gazette or the Post, but the coffee houses take several papers each, and for the price of a cup you can sit and read for as long as you like. Along one wall a man is standing on a chair, reading aloud from a printed sheet. Something about a ship arriving from the Indies. The men around him are listening intently, doing calculations in their heads, figuring out how this news will affect prices and profits. Information moves through London's coffee houses like blood through veins. A merchant at the exchange might hear a rumour at 10 o'clock. By noon, it's being discussed in every coffee house in the city. By evening, it's crossed the river to Southwark and the Bridgehead taverns. By tomorrow everyone knows. You don't stay long. You don't buy anything. The serving girl gives you a dirty look when you leave without ordering, but you're not the first person to wander in just to see the place, and you won't be the last. Outside, the church bells are striking 4. You run. Cheapside isn't far, but Master Whitley said 4 o'clock, and Master Whitley means 4 o'clock. You dodge between carts and sedan chairs, nearly knock over a woman carrying a basket of cabbages, vault over a pig rooting through garbage in the gutter. Your lungs burn with the effort and the foul London air. You skid through the door of the shop at 4:01, out of breath and sweating. Master Whitley is with a customer. He glances at you, says nothing, but you see the slight tightening around his eyes. 1 minute late is still late. You take your place behind the counter, catch your breath as quietly as possible, and wait for the lecture that will come after the customer leaves. The customer is a young woman, accompanied by an older woman who's probably her mother. They're examining lace. The good lace, the stuff Master Whitley keeps in the cabinet behind the counter. French lace that costs more per yard than you make in a month. The Brussels is finer, the young woman says, holding up a sample to the light. The Valenciennes holds up better to washing, Master Whitley replies. If Madame intends to wear this often, I'd recommend the Valenciennes. The mother looks at the prices, frowns, and if she only intends to wear it once, for her wedding, wedding lace, the most expensive purchase most women ever make. Master Whitley's eyes light up, though his expression stays neutral. For a wedding, madam, one wants the finest quality, something that will become an heirloom, something her daughter will wear, and her daughter's daughter. He's good at this. You've watched him work customers before, but never quite at this level. The sale of wedding lace is an art form. He shows them sample after sample, discussing the merits of each, the history of the lace-making regions, the particular techniques used by different workshops. He's not just selling fabric, he's selling a story, a future, a legacy. By the time the women leave, they've spent more money than you'll earn in the next 3 years. Master Whitley wraps the purchase himself, ties it with silk ribbon, sees them to the door with a bow that would do credit to a courtier. Then he turns to you. 1 minute late. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Where were you? You could lie. Say you got stuck behind a cart, got lost somehow, despite having lived on Cheapside for 6 months. But Master Whitley has a way of knowing when you're lying, and the punishment for lying is worse than the punishment for the truth. The Royal Exchange, you say, and Jonathan's coffee house, just for a minute, just to see. He looks at you for a long moment. His expression is unreadable. You went to the Exchange. Yes, sir. And Jonathan's. Yes, sir. He's quiet. The shop feels very still. Outside, Cheapside continues its endless noise, but in here, there's only the two of you and the weight of your confession. Then Master Whitley does something unexpected. He laughs. Not a big laugh, just a short exhalation, a shake of his head, but definitely a laugh. When I was your age, he says, I used to sneak over to the Exchange every chance I got. Stood there like a fool, watching the merchants, dreaming about being one of them someday. You stare at him. This is the most personal thing Master Whitley has ever said to you. Did you, you ask, become one of them? He gestures around the shop. The bolts of fabric, the ribbons and buttons, the modest premises on Cheapside, respectable but hardly grand. I became this, a tradesman, a haberdasher. I'll never set foot on the floor of the Exchange as anything other than a spectator. But I own my shop. I employ 2 apprentices. I pay my debts on time and keep a clean reputation with the worshipful company of haberdashers. That's its own kind of success. He looks at you, really looks at you, maybe for the first time since you started working here. You're not a bad lad, Will. You did well with Pratt today. 3 quarters, just like I said. Not everyone can negotiate like that. Some of my previous apprentices would have caved at 4/5 and called it a victory. You don't know what to say. Now get back to work, and next time you go wandering, leave yourself more than 1 minute to get back. He turns away, starts straightening the fabric on the shelves. The conversation is over, but something has shifted. Some wall between master and apprentice has cracked, just slightly. You've seen a glimpse of the young man he used to be, the dreamer who snuck away to watch the merchants, the boy from Kent who came to London with nothing and built something real. That could be you. That might actually be you. The evening customers start arriving. The shop gets busy again. You sell ribbons and buttons and count out pins by the dozen. The routine of commerce, the endless small transactions that keep the city running. Outside, the sun is setting. The light through the shop windows turns golden, then orange, then fades altogether. Candles are lit. The street vendors start packing up their carts. Another day in Georgian London slowly winding down, but not over yet. The shop closes at 8 o'clock. Master Whitley is precise about this. 8 o'clock means 8 o'clock. Not 5 past, not 10 past. The shutters go up, the door is bolted, and the day's takings are counted out on the counter. Tonight, it's a good haul. The wedding lace alone accounts for more than a week's usual business. Master Whitley counts the coins twice, makes a note in his ledger, and locks everything in the strongbox he keeps beneath the floorboards. Supper, he says. Supper happens in the back room of the shop. There's a small kitchen there, barely bigger than a closet, with a fireplace and a table and 3 stools. Mrs. Whitley does the cooking. She's a quiet woman, 10 years younger than her husband, with a face that might have been pretty once and hands roughened by work. Tonight it's boiled mutton with turnips. The mutton is tough and the turnips are bland, but there's plenty of it. You eat until you're full, which is more than you could say for most of your meals back in Essex. Whatever else you might say about your apprenticeship, Master Whitley feeds you properly. Jack sits across from you, shoveling food into his mouth like he hasn't eaten in days. Jack's been here 3 years longer than you. He knows things, where the loose floorboard is, which suppliers can be bargained down and which ones take offence, how to tell when Master Whitley is in a good mood versus when he's just pretending. You went to the exchange today, Jack says between mouthfuls. It's not a question. Word travels fast. Master Whitley mentioned it. Jack grins. Said you've got ideas above your station. He said I did well with the button merchant. That too, Jack shrugs. Don't get cocky. Pratt's easy. Wait until you have to negotiate with the silk importers. Those bastards will eat you alive. Mrs. Whitley clears her throat. She doesn't approve of language at the dinner table. Jack mumbles an apology and goes back to his mutton. After supper there's the evening routine, cleaning the shop, preparing for tomorrow, making sure the fabric is properly stored, the ribbons organised by colour, the buttons sorted by size. It's tedious work, but it has to be done. A messy shop loses customers. Master Whitley has said this approximately 4,000 times since you arrived. By 9 o'clock the work is finished. Master Whitley and his wife retire to their rooms above the shop. Jack stretches, yawns, and announces that he's going out. Out where? The Feathers, ale, cards, maybe a girl if I'm lucky. He looks at you. You coming? You should say no. You should go upstairs to the attic room and get some sleep. Tomorrow starts at 5 o'clock, same as every day, and you'll be exhausted if you stay out late. But you're 17 years old and you've been in London for 6 months and you've barely seen anything except the inside of this shop and the streets between here and various suppliers. Yeah, you say, I'm coming. The Feathers is a tavern 3 streets over, tucked into an alley off Bread Street. From the outside it looks like nothing. A wooden door, a faded sign showing a bundle of feathers, a single candle burning in the window. But inside, it's packed. The noise hits you first. Laughter, shouting, the clatter of tankards on wooden tables. Then the smell, ale and tobacco and bodies pressed too close together. The room is maybe 30 feet across, with the low ceiling blackened by decades of pipe smoke. Every table is full. People are standing along the walls, drinks in hand, talking over each other. Jack seems to know everyone. He pushes through the crowd, exchanging greetings, slapping backs, making his way toward a table near the fire where a card game is already in progress. "This is Will," he says, gesturing at you. "New apprentice. Don't cheat him too badly." The men at the table look you over. A butcher's boy with forearms like ham hocks. A printer's devil with ink stains on his fingers. A fellow you don't recognise who might be a clerk or might be a cut-purse. Hard to tell in this light. "Can he play?" the butcher's boy asks. "He can learn," Jack says. "The game is called Put. You've never played it before, but it's simple enough. 2 or 3 cards dealt. Highest card wins, with some betting on the side. The stakes are small. A halfpenny here, a penny there. But the money adds up, and by the end of the first hour you're down 6p. 6p is a lot of money when you only earn a few shillings a week. I'm out, you say, pushing back from the table. Smart lad, the printer's devil says. Most new players lose their whole week's wages before they figure out when to quit. Jack is still in the game, doing better than you did. He's got a knack for reading faces, knowing when someone's bluffing. You leave him to it and make your way to the bar. The ale is cheap and watered, but it's wet and it's cold, and after the heat of the card table it tastes like heaven. You find a spot along the wall and drink slowly, watching the room. London nightlife. This is what it looks like. There's a man in the corner telling a story to a rapt audience. Something about a voyage to the Indies, a storm, a near drowning. Probably half lies, but nobody seems to mind. 2 women are arguing near the door, their voices rising and falling, occasionally punctuated by laughter. A fiddler is trying to play in another corner, but he's drunk and the tune keeps wandering into something unrecognisable. And everywhere people are drinking, not just ale, gin. You've heard about gin. Everyone's heard about gin. It's the drink of the poor, the desperate, the lost. A penny buys enough to get you drunk. 2p buys enough to forget your own name. The gin shops are everywhere in London, especially in the poorer neighbourhoods. Drunk for a penny, dead drunk for 2p, straw for free. That's the saying. The straw is to sleep on after you've drunk yourself unconscious. Parliament's been trying to do something about it for years. They passed a Gin Act back in 1936 that was supposed to make the stuff harder to get. Didn't work. People rioted. Informers who turned in illegal sellers got beaten in the streets. 1 woman was killed by a mob. The government backed off, and the gin kept flowing. 7 million gallons a year, someone told you once. 7 million gallons of gin consumed in London alone. That's 14 gallons for every man, woman and child in the city. Obviously, not everyone drinks. Which means the ones who do drink are putting away a lot more than 14 gallons. Here at the Feathers, the gin drinkers are easy to spot. They're the ones with the glazed eyes and the shaking hands. The ones who've moved past cheerful into something darker. A woman at a nearby table is slumped over, barely conscious, while her companions continue drinking around her. Nobody seems concerned. This happens every night. This is normal. There's a print you've seen in shop windows. An artist named Hogarth made it a few years back. Gin Lane, it's called. Shows a London street full of gin drinkers in various states of ruin. A woman dropping her baby while she takes snuff. A man and a dog fighting over a bone. Bodies piling up. Buildings collapsing. It's meant to be a warning, a moral lesson about the evils of drink. But standing here in the Feathers, watching the gin drinkers stare at nothing, you realise Hogarth wasn't exaggerating much. There's another print too, Beer Street. Shows a prosperous neighbourhood where everyone drinks ale instead of gin. The people are healthy, the buildings are solid, commerce is thriving, the message is clear, ale is English and wholesome, gin is foreign and destructive. You look down at your own tankard. Ale. Good English ale. This is London's other face. The one you don't see on Cheapside during business hours. The desperation underneath the commerce. The people who work 16-hour days and still can't afford proper food, so they buy gin instead because at least gin makes you forget you're hungry. The mothers who dose their crying babies with gin to keep them quiet. The workers who drink their wages before they even get home. You think about the merchants at the Royal Exchange, their silk coats and embroidered waistcoats. The casual way they discussed cargoes worth more than this entire tavern. Less than half a mile separates the exchange from this alley, but it might as well be a different world. You finish your ale and don't order another. Leaving already? It's the clerk or cut purse from the card game. Up close, you can see his clothes are too nice for a clerk. The fabric's good quality, but his eyes are too watchful for an honest man. Early morning, you say? Aren't they all? He tilts his head, studying you. You work for Whitley, yeah? The haberdasher? That's right. Good shop, good reputation. He's done well for himself. A pause. You ever want to make some real money, come find me. Name's Crouch. Ask around. People know where to find me. He drifts off into the crowd before you can ask what kind of real money he's talking about. But you can guess. Every shop on Cheapside loses merchandise to theft. Some of it walks out the door with customers who have quick fingers. Some of it gets handed out the back to men like Crouch, who sell it elsewhere for a fraction of its value. You're not that desperate. Not yet. Not ever, you hope. Finding Jack takes a while. He's moved from the card table to a booth in the back, where he's deep in conversation with a young woman whose dress suggests she's not particular about her companions. You catch his eye, gesture toward the door. He waves you off. Fine, you'll walk back alone. The street outside is dark, really dark. There are no streetlights in Georgian London, no gas lamps, no electric bulbs, obviously. If the moon is out, you can see. If it's not, you're navigating by memory and luck. Tonight the moon is hiding behind clouds. The alley is black as coal. Link, sir? Light your way? A boy appears at your elbow, maybe 12 years old, carrying a torch made of bundled sticks dipped in pitch. A Link boy. They work the streets at night, hiring themselves out to light the way for anyone who'll pay. How much? Penny to Cheapside. It's a reasonable price. You hand over the coin and the boy sets off, holding the torch high, casting a circle of orange light that pushes back the darkness. You follow. The streets look different at night. Shadows fill the gaps between buildings. Shapes move in doorways that might be sleeping beggars or might be footpads waiting to rob anyone who passes. The Link boy walks quickly, confidently, navigating the maze of alleys without hesitation. You pass a gin shop. It's just a cellar, really, with steps leading down into darkness and a sign that says gin in letters you can barely make out. A woman is sitting on the steps, head in her hands, not moving. You can't tell if she's sleeping or passed out or dead. The Link boy doesn't even glance at her. He's seen it all before. Further on, you pass a narrow court where a group of men are gathered around something on the ground. Cards, maybe, or dice, or something else entirely. One of them looks up as your torchlight passes over the scene. His face is weathered, scarred, definitely not friendly. You look away and keep walking. You do this every night, you ask? Most nights. Good money if you know the streets. Dangerous, the boy shrugs. Sometimes. You learn which corners to avoid, which gangs control which territory. Stay in the light. Keep moving. Don't carry anything worth stealing. There's footpads who'll slit your throat for sixpence. There's press gangs who'll knock you out and drag you to a ship. There's resurrection men who... He stops. Never mind. Point is, you stay smart, you stay alive. Resurrection men. You've heard of them. Body snatchers. They dig up fresh corpses from graveyards and sell them to surgeons who need specimens for dissection. A fresh body can fetch 8 guineas or more. Sometimes, when bodies are scarce, they make their own. You walk a little faster. The Link boy notices and grins. Don't worry. Resurrection men don't bother with living folk. Too much trouble. Corpses don't fight back. That's not as reassuring as he probably thinks it is. You glance down at yourself. Your clothes are plain. You've got maybe 3p left after the card game and the ale. Not worth robbing. But tell that to someone desperate enough. A sound behind you. Footsteps. More than one person. The link boy hears it too. His pace quickens. Walk faster, he mutters. Don't run. Running makes them chase. You walk faster. The footsteps behind you match your pace. Your heart is hammering now. The torch throws wild shadows on the walls. Then, up ahead, light. Another torch, and voices. A group of men emerging from a tavern, laughing, obviously drunk but numerous. Safety in numbers. The footsteps behind you fade away. Whoever was following decided the odds weren't worth it. Close one, the link boy says. His voice is steady, but you can see his hands shaking slightly. They usually give up if there's a crowd. Does that happen often? Often enough. He leads you around a final corner and suddenly you're on Cheapside, the familiar shop fronts, the shuttered windows of Master Whitley's establishment. Home. You give the boy an extra halfpenny for his trouble. He looks surprised, then grateful, and disappears back into the darkness with his torch, off to find another customer. The door is locked, obviously. But Jack showed you the trick on your first week. There's a loose board around the side, just big enough to squeeze through into the back room. Master Whitley probably knows about it. He's never said anything. You ease through the gap, replace the board, and make your way through the dark shop to the stairs, up to the attic. Your bed is waiting. The straw mattress that seemed so uncomfortable when you first arrived now feels like luxury. You lie down without undressing, too tired to bother. Outside, London continues its nighttime life. The taverns will be open for hours yet. The gin shops never close. Somewhere out there, Jack is probably still drinking, still chasing that girl, still making choices that might or might not catch up with him. And somewhere out there, footpads are prowling the dark streets. Link boys are lighting the way for strangers, and 500,000 people are trying to survive another night in the greatest city in the world. You close your eyes. Tomorrow is another day. Another 5 o'clock wake-up. Another round of ribbons and buttons and lace. Another set of customers to charm and suppliers to negotiate with, and streets to navigate. But that's tomorrow. Right now, in this moment, you're warm and fed and safe. You've survived your first real night out in London. You've gambled and lost, but not too badly. You've seen the darkness and made it home. That's not nothing. The sounds of the city fade as sleep pulls you under. The last thing you hear is a church bell somewhere in the distance striking 11. 2 more hours until midnight. 6 more hours until dawn. And then it all starts again. Morning comes too soon. The church bells pull you out of sleep at 5, same as always. Your head feels thick from last night's ale, but there's no time to nurse it. Jack is already up, splashing water on his face from the basin, looking annoyingly fresh for someone who stayed out much later than you did. "Good night?" you ask. He grins, says nothing. That's answer enough. The morning routine passes in a blur. Washing, dressing, breakfast of bread and small beer. The shop opens at 7. Customers trickle in. You sell buttons to a tailor's wife and ribbon to a milliner's assistant, and a dozen packets of pins to a woman who runs a boarding house in Aldgate. Around mid-morning, Master Whitley calls you over. "I need you to make a delivery," he says. "Leicester Fields." Leicester Fields. You've heard of it, but never been there. It's in the West End, where the fashionable people live. A different London entirely from Cheapside and the city. Master Whitley hands you a wrapped parcel, surprisingly heavy for its size. This goes to number 31, a painter named Hogarth. Don't dawdle, don't get lost, and for God's sake, don't drop it. That's 3 months of specialty thread he ordered, and he's already paid. Hogarth. Even you've heard of Hogarth, the man who made those prints about gin and beer, the morality paintings that hang in half the print shops in London. He's famous, actually famous, and you're about to knock on his door. The walk west takes you through parts of London you've never seen before, past the familiar streets around St. Paul's, through the Temple Bar Gate that marks the boundary between the City of London and the City of Westminster. 2 cities, technically, 2 sets of laws, 2 sets of officials, 2 different worlds pressed up against each other. Westminster is cleaner than the city. The streets are wider, the buildings are newer, built after the Great Fire swept through and cleared away centuries of medieval clutter. Here, the houses have proper facades, symmetrical windows, doors painted in bright colours. The people walking past look different too, better dressed, better fed, moving at a slower pace because they're not rushing between customers and suppliers and workshops. You feel out of place immediately. Your clothes mark you as a tradesman's apprentice. Your accent when you ask for directions marks you as someone from outside the city. A woman in a silk dress actually wrinkles her nose as she walks past you, like you smell bad. You probably do smell bad. Everyone in London smells bad. But apparently in Westminster, they've learned to hide it better. Leicester Fields is a square, technically. 4 sides of grand houses surrounding an open green space with an equestrian statue in the middle. King George I, someone tells you when you ask, put up about 10 years ago. The king sits frozen on his bronze horse, looking down at the people crossing the square, most of whom probably don't even notice him anymore. You find number 31 on the east side. It's a tall, narrow house, 4 stories, with a painted sign above the door showing a golden head. Not a real head, a carved bust, the kind you see outside sculptors' workshops. But this isn't a sculptor's place. This is where William Hogarth lives and works. You knock. A servant opens the door, an actual servant, in livery. He looks at you, looks at your package, and his expression shifts from suspicion to something like tolerance. The thread delivery? Yes, sir, from Master Whitley, Cheapside. The servant takes the package, weighs it in his hands and nods. Wait here. Mr. Hogarth may want to inspect it before you go. He disappears inside, leaving you standing on the doorstep. You wait. A minute passes, then 2. Through the open door you can smell oil paint and turpentine, the sharp chemical scent of an artist's studio. Then footsteps, and a man appears. He's shorter than you expected, stocky, with a round face and sharp eyes that seem to take in everything at once. He's wearing a paint-stained smock over his clothes, and there's a brush tucked behind his ear that he seems to have forgotten about. William Hogarth, the most famous artist in England, looking at you like you're a specimen in a collection. You're Whitley's boy? Yes, sir, Will Marsden. He turns the package over in his hands, then tears it open right there in the doorway. Inside are spools of thread in a dozen colours. Gold, silver, crimson, emerald. The specialty stuff that Master Whitley charges a fortune for. Hogarth holds up a spool of gold thread to the light, squinting at it. Good quality. Better than the last batch. He looks at you again. You know what I use this for? You shake your head. Embroidery on canvas. Before the paint goes on, It's a technique I've been developing. Adds texture, catches the light differently than paint alone. He waves a hand vaguely. Technical stuff. You wouldn't understand. You probably wouldn't, but you nod like you do. Tell Whitley I'll need more next month. Same colours, same quantities, and tell him to stop overcharging me. I know what this thread costs in Amsterdam. Yes, sir. Hogarth turns to go back inside, then pauses, looks at you over his shoulder. You've seen my prints? Gin Lane and all that? Yes, sir. Everyone has. What do you think of them? This feels like a test. You're not sure what the right answer is, so you give the honest one. They scared me, sir, when I first came to London. Made me think this city would eat me alive. Something shifts in Hogarth's face, almost a smile. Good. That's what they're supposed to do. Scare some sense into people. He nods, more to himself than to you. Safe travels back to Cheapside, Will Marsden. Try not to let the city eat you. The door closes. You stand there for a moment, processing what just happened. You just talked to William Hogarth, had an actual conversation, and he remembered your name. That's worth more than a sixpence lost at cards. Since you're in Leicester Fields anyway, you take a few minutes to look around. Master Whitley said not to dawdle, but he also didn't say you couldn't observe, and there's plenty to observe here. The square is busy with a different kind of traffic than Cheapside. Sedan chairs carry wealthy passengers from house to house. Ladies walk arm in arm, trailed by servants carrying parcels. Gentlemen in powdered wigs discuss whatever it is gentlemen discuss. Politics, probably, or horses, or both. At the north end of the square, a small crowd has gathered. You drift over to see what's happening. It's a street performer, a man in a motley coat juggling balls while standing on one leg. A monkey sits on his shoulder, wearing a tiny hat. Every few seconds the monkey snatches one of the balls out of the air, and the juggler pretends to be surprised. The crowd laughs. This is entertainment for the West End. More sophisticated than the bear-baiting pits south of the river, less exclusive than the theatres and opera houses where tickets cost more than you earn in a month. Street performers work the squares and parks, passing a hat after their show, hoping the wealthy spectators will be generous. You watch for a few minutes. The juggler adds more balls. The monkey steals more of them. A woman near you laughs so hard she nearly drops her parasol. Then the hat comes around. You don't have money to spare, but you drop in a farthing anyway. The juggler nods at you. The monkey tips its tiny hat. Walking back toward the city, you take a different route than the one you came. Your path takes you past St. James's Square, and you slow down just to look. This is the pinnacle of aristocratic London, the most exclusive address in the capital. Dukes and earls and prime ministers live here, in houses so grand they make Leicester Fields look modest. The square itself has been transformed in recent years by a royal gardener named Bridgman. There's an elegant basin at the centre, 150 feet wide, surrounded by stone obelisks bearing lamps. The ironwork around it probably cost more than Master Whitley's entire shop. Before Bridgman's work, residents complained the square was muddy, neglected, frankly embarrassing for such prestigious addresses. Now it's immaculate. The wealthy have a way of making things nice for themselves. You don't linger. A boy in apprentice clothes standing too long in St. James's Square attracts the wrong kind of attention, but you file it away in your memory. Another piece of London, another reminder of how far the distance is between the bottom and the top. South through the Haymarket, where the Opera House stands shuttered in the morning light. Past the Charing Cross, where once upon a time the bodies of traitors were displayed on spikes. Now it's just a busy intersection. Coaches and carts and people flowing in every direction. You cut through Covent Garden. This is the Market District, London's fruit and vegetable supplier. The square is packed with stalls selling everything that grows from the ground. Apples and pears and cabbages and turnips, carrots with the dirt still on them, bundles of herbs that scent the air with something almost pleasant, a rare break from London's usual smells. But Covent Garden isn't just produce. Around the edges of the market square a different kind of trade happens. Coffee houses where writers and poets gather to argue about ideas, print shops selling pamphlets on every topic imaginable, and if you look closely, working girls who've drifted over from the lanes around Drury Lane, looking for customers among the morning crowds. London doesn't hide its vices, it just puts them in different neighbourhoods. The sellers are crying their wares in a dozen accents. Irish voices, country voices, voices so thick with London slang you can barely understand them. Women balance baskets on their heads with an ease that comes from years of practice. Children run between the stalls snatching bruised fruit that's about to be thrown away. Nobody stops them. It's not really stealing if nobody wants it anyway. You pause near a stall selling oranges. Real oranges, shipped from Spain or Portugal. Bright spots of colour in the grey London morning. They cost more than you can afford, but you can smell them from 3 feet away. Sweet and sharp and utterly foreign. Orange, sir? Fresh this morning? The seller is a young woman, maybe your age, with a quick smile and quicker hands. Orange sellers are famous in London. They work the theatres too, walking the aisles during performances, selling fruit and sometimes other things. Nell Gwynn started as an orange seller, before she caught the king's eye and became his mistress. That was 100 years ago, but people still talk about it. The girl who sold oranges and ended up in a palace. This girl probably won't end up in any palace. But she smiles at you like you might be worth her time, and for a moment you're tempted to spend money you don't have on fruit you don't need. Maybe next time, you say. She shrugs, already turning to the next potential customer. That's London. Everyone's always moving on to the next thing. A woman at a flower stall waves you over. Nosegay for your sweetheart, young man? Penny for a bunch. You don't have a sweetheart, but the flowers are beautiful. Violets and primroses and something yellow you don't recognise. You shake your head, smile, keep walking, back through the Temple Bar, back into the city of London proper. The streets narrow, the smells intensify, the people move faster. This is your London. The London of commerce and trade and endless small transactions. You make it back to Cheapside by noon. Master Whitley is with a customer when you arrive, so you slip behind the counter and wait. When the customer leaves, he turns to you. Hogarth get his thread? Yes, sir. He said to tell you he'll need more next month, and to stop overcharging him. Master Whitley snorts. That's rich. Coming from a man who charges 50 guineas for a portrait. Did you see any of his work? No, sir, but I talked to him. Briefly. Talked to him? Master Whitley's eyebrows rise. About what? His prints, Gin Lane. He asked what I thought of them. And what did you say? That they scared me. Master Whitley considers this. Then he nods slowly. Hogarth likes honest people. Most of the toffs who buy his paintings wouldn't know honest if it bit them. They want flattery. Pretty pictures of themselves looking noble and virtuous. Hogarth gives them that. But he also makes prints that show London as it really is. The gin and the poverty and the rot underneath the silk. He pauses. Looks at you with something that might be respect. You told him the truth. That's worth more than you know. The afternoon passes slowly after that. Customers come and go. You sell the usual assortment of haberdashery: ribbons, buttons, lace, pins, the rhythm of commerce, the endless flow of money changing hands. But your mind keeps wandering back to Leicester Fields, the grand houses, the well-dressed people, the painter in his smock with the brush behind his ear, asking what you thought of his work. London has layers. You're starting to see that now. The City and Westminster, the merchants and the aristocrats, the workers and the watchers. Each layer has its own rules, its own rhythms, its own way of surviving. You're still at the bottom of all those layers. An apprentice from Essex, 7 years away from being a journeyman, longer still from being a master. But you've walked through Leicester Fields and talked to William Hogarth and watched a monkey in a tiny hat steal juggling balls from a man in motley. That's something. Late in the afternoon, a customer comes in who doesn't look like your usual trade. A young man, maybe a few years older than you, dressed in clothes that are expensive but rumpled. His wig is slightly askew. There's ink on his fingers, like the printer's devil from the tavern, but his hands are too soft for manual labour. "Do you have any black ribbon?" he asks. "The widest you've got." "For mourning, sir?" "For theatre." He grins. "I'm at Drury Lane. We're mounting a production of Romeo and Juliet. The costumer sent me out for ribbon, and I'm afraid I haven't the faintest idea what I'm doing." Drury Lane. The theatre. Another world you've never seen. "How much do you need, sir?" 20 yards? 30? I honestly don't know. She said plenty, which isn't terribly helpful. You show him the black ribbons. There are 3 widths in stock. He looks at them like they're written in a foreign language. "This one," you say, pointing to the medium width. Wide enough to be visible from the audience, not so wide it looks clumsy. For theatrical use, this is what most costumers prefer. He looks at you with new interest. "You know about theatre?" "I know about ribbon," he laughs. Actually laughs, delighted. "I like you. What's your name?" Will Marsden." "Will. Excellent. A good theatrical name. You know, Shakespeare had a will, in his sonnets. The Dark Lady and all that." He waves a hand. "Never mind. I'll take 30 yards of the medium, and whatever pins you think I need." The costumer also mentioned pins. Many pins. You measure out the ribbon, count out 4 packets of pins, wrap everything in brown paper. The young man pays without haggling, which is unusual. Rich people usually haggle more than poor people, in your experience. It's how they stay rich. "If you ever want to see a show," he says, taking his parcel, "come round to the stage door at Drury Lane. Ask for Thomas Arne. Tell them you're the ribbon man. I'll get you in." "Thomas Arne." You file the name away. "Thank you, sir." He waves as he leaves. "Thank you, Will. You've saved me from the costumer's wrath, and that's no small thing. The woman is terrifying." The door swings shut behind him. You're left standing behind the counter, holding 3p more than you had before, and an invitation to Drury Lane Theatre. This city keeps surprising you. The days have a way of blurring together when you're learning a trade. You wake, you work, you sleep, you wake again. Before you know it, 3 weeks have passed since your trip to the West End. 3 weeks of ribbons and buttons and lace. 3 weeks of learning which customers will haggle and which will pay full price without blinking. 3 weeks of watching Master Whitley work his magic on wealthy clients and taking mental notes. And then, on a Monday morning, Jack shakes you awake earlier than usual. "Get up. It's hanging day." Hanging day. You've heard about these. Everyone in London has. 8 times a year the condemned prisoners from Newgate are loaded onto carts and paraded through the streets to Tyburn, where the gallows wait. The whole city turns out to watch. Shops close, work stops. It's like a holiday, except instead of celebrating something, you're watching people die. I'm not sure I want to see that, you say. Jack is already pulling on his coat. You don't have a choice. Master Whitley gave us the morning off, said we should go, see what happens to people who break the law. Educational, he called it. Educational? Right. The streets are already crowded when you step outside. People are streaming west toward Oxford Road, toward Tyburn. Whole families walking together, parents holding children on their shoulders so they can see over the crowds. Vendors selling meat pies and roasted nuts and cups of ale. It's festive almost, like a fair. Except for where everyone's going. Jack knows the route. He's done this before. We'll cut through Holborn, he says, get ahead of the procession, find a good spot near the gallows. You follow him through streets that grow more packed with every step. The crowd has a strange energy, excited but also tense. Everyone's talking, laughing, but there's an undercurrent of something else. Anticipation, or maybe dread. You pass a woman selling ballads, printed sheets with songs about the condemned men, their crimes, their last words. Some of these ballads are written before the execution even happens. The printers just make up what they think the dying men will say. Nobody seems to mind. 3 for a penny, the woman shouts. The life and death of Tom Whitmore, the gentleman thief. Read all about his crimes and his final confession. Jack buys one. Unfolds it as you walk, reading out loud. Says here this Whitmore fellow robbed a coach on Hounslow Heath, took 40 guineas and a lady's diamond ring. Then he kissed the lady's hand and told her she was beautiful. Did that really happen? Jack shrugs. Probably not, but it sells ballads. The crowd thickens as you approach Oxford Road. This is the route the procession takes from Newgate Prison in the east to Tyburn in the west. 3 miles of public spectacle. The condemned ride in open carts surrounded by guards, while all of London watches them pass. You find a spot near a tavern called the Mason's Arms. The building has a balcony, and enterprising locals are charging people to stand on it. A shilling for a front row view. You don't have a shilling to spare, so you stay at street level, wedged between a butcher who smells like his profession and a woman selling oranges from a basket. First time? The butcher asks, seeing your face. That obvious? You've got the look. Green around the edges. He laughs, not unkindly. Don't worry. After the first one it gets easier. You're not sure you want it to get easier. The procession arrives maybe an hour later. You hear it before you see it. Cheering from down the road. The rumble of cartwheels on cobblestones. The clop of horses' hooves. Then the first cart comes into view. There are 3 carts today, each carrying condemned prisoners. Guards on horseback ride alongside, keeping the crowd from getting too close. A chaplain in black robes walks behind, reading from a Bible, though you can't hear his words over the noise of the crowd. The prisoners themselves look smaller than you expected. Just people. Men mostly, though you think you see a woman in the second cart. They're dressed in their best clothes. That's tradition. You dress up for your own execution, like you're going to a party. Some of them wave to the crowd. Some stare straight ahead, faces blank. One man is weeping, his shoulders shaking, supported by a guard who looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. The carts pass close to where you're standing, close enough to see their faces clearly. The man in front is maybe 30. Dark hair, handsome in a rough way. He's the one the ballad was about. Tom Whitmore, the gentleman thief. He doesn't look like a gentleman now. He looks tired, resigned. But when he spots a pretty woman in the crowd, he manages a smile and blows her a kiss. The crowd loves it. They cheer like he's a hero. Maybe to some of them he is. These highway robbers, they take from the rich. The coaches they stop belong to merchants and nobles, people with money to spare. It's easy to romanticize that, especially when you've got nothing yourself. But the woman in the second cart, you learn later, killed her husband with a kitchen knife, and the weeping man poisoned his business partner for money. Crimes aren't always romantic. Sometimes they're just desperate and ugly and sad. The procession moves on. The crowd follows, a river of humanity flowing toward Tyburn. You and Jack let yourselves be carried along. There's no fighting this tide. You just move with it, packed shoulder to shoulder with strangers, all of you heading to the same place. Tyburn itself is a wide open space where 3 roads meet. In the centre stands the gallows. The Tyburn tree, people call it. It's not a tree at all. It's a triangular wooden structure, 3 posts connected by beams, designed to hang multiple people at once. On busy days, they've executed 24 people here in a single session. 3 sides of the triangle, 8 bodies per side, all swinging at once. The gallows have been here for 600 years. Edward II was watching executions at this spot. So was Elizabeth. So was Charles before they cut off his own head. Generations of Londoners have come to this same place to watch the same spectacle. Your grandparents probably stood where you're standing now. Today there are only 7 condemned. Lucky 7, someone in the crowd jokes. Nobody laughs. All around the gallows, a carnival atmosphere has taken hold. Vendors are doing brisk business. A man sells execution cakes, little pastries shaped like coffins. A woman offers cups of gin for a penny, cheaper than water. Children sit on their father's shoulders, craning to see over the crowd. An old woman has set up a chair and is taking bets on which prisoner will die fastest. The carts have stopped beneath the gallows. The prisoners are being helped down, though helped seems like a strange word for it. Led, more like. Herded. They're given one last drink if they want it. Most do, wouldn't you? A platform has been built for the spectators who can afford to pay. Lords and ladies in their finest clothes watching through opera glasses like they're at the theatre. You've heard that some of them come to every execution, that they consider it entertainment, that they hold dinner parties afterward and discuss what they've seen the way you might discuss a play. Around the base of the gallows the crowd is packed so tight you can barely breathe. Jack has somehow wormed his way forward, but you've lost sight of him. You're stuck between bodies, unable to move forward or back, forced to watch whether you want to or not. The smell is overwhelming, sweat and ale and unwashed bodies and something else underneath. Fear, maybe, or anticipation, or both mixed together until you can't tell them apart. The chaplain is speaking. You can't hear the words, but you can see his mouth moving, see him gesturing toward heaven. The condemned are supposed to repent now, confess their sins, ask forgiveness from God and from the people they've wronged. Tom Whitmore refuses to confess. He shakes his head when the chaplain speaks to him, says something that makes the crowd cheer again. A final act of defiance. The woman who killed her husband is praying, kneeling on the platform with her hands clasped, mouthing words you can't hear. Whatever she did, whatever led her to that kitchen with that knife, she's making peace with it now. The weeping man has to be supported by guards. His legs won't hold him. You think he might be sick. Someone in the crowd throws a rotten vegetable at him. It misses. Then the nooses are brought out. They're simple things. loops of rope, thick and coarse. The hangman moves down the line, placing each noose around each neck, adjusting them carefully. He's a professional. This is his job. He does it with the same concentration Master Whitley brings to measuring ribbon. The prisoners are positioned on a platform that drops away when the signal is given. Trap doors, basically. One moment they're standing, the next moment they're falling, and the rope catches them and that's it. Except it's not always that clean. The drop is supposed to break your neck. End it quickly. But the science isn't exact, and the hangman doesn't always get it right. Sometimes it takes longer than it should. Sometimes the family pays someone to pull on the dying person's legs. Speed things up. It's a mercy of a sort. The signal is given. The trapdoors drop. 7 bodies fall. You don't look away. You want to, but you can't. It's like your eyes are locked open, forced to witness this thing that's been done in the name of justice. Some of them die quickly. The drop does its work. Tom Whitmore is one of those. His luck held until the end. Others take longer. That's the cruel truth of hanging. The science isn't perfect. The crowd watches in silence for those ones, or maybe you just can't hear anything over the rushing in your ears. Around you, people are reacting in different ways. Some are cheering, some are crying, some are eating their meat pies, watching the bodies swing completely unmoved. A group of pickpockets is working the crowd, taking advantage of everyone's distraction. Tyburn blossoms, they call themselves. They bloom while death happens. You feel sick. This is justice in Georgian London. This is what happens when you break the law. Steal 40 guineas from a coach and you die in front of a cheering crowd. The bodies will hang for an hour before they're cut down. That's tradition. Let the crowd have their look. Let the lesson sink in. After that, the real business begins. The surgeons are already waiting at the edge of the crowd. They have legal claim to a certain number of bodies each year for their anatomy theatres and their students. The Company of Barber Surgeons runs a dissection hall near Newgate, where they cut open executed criminals in front of paying audiences. Medicine and spectacle all in one. The bodies the surgeons don't claim will go to the anatomists, private collectors who pay good money for fresh specimens. There's a whole underground economy in corpses. The resurrection men you heard about from the Link Boy, they're part of it. Bodies are worth money in Georgian London. Dead or alive, you're always worth something to someone. Some prisoners arrange for their families to claim their bodies quickly before the surgeons can get to them. They pay bribes to the guards, to the hangman, to anyone who can speed the process along. Nobody wants their father or brother ending up on a dissection table, cut apart while students take notes. A few will be buried in the churchyard near Tyburn. Criminals get their own corner, away from the respectable dead. No headstones, no markers, just a patch of ground that everyone knows not to walk on. You push your way out of the crowd. You don't care about stepping on toes or shoving through gaps. You just need to get away from here, away from the smell of death and the sound of cheering and the sight of those bodies turning slowly in the wind. You find a wall to lean against. Breathe. Try not to throw up. A dog runs past carrying something in its mouth that you refuse to look at closely. Jack finds you a few minutes later. He's got colour in his cheeks, like he's been drinking. Probably has. The taverns near Tyburn do their best business on hanging days. First one's always rough, he says. You'll get used to it. I don't want to get used to it, he shrugs. Then don't come next time. But I'll tell you something, Will. Every merchant on Cheapside has seen this. Every apprentice. Every journeyman. We all know what happens if we steal from our masters. if we cheat our customers, if we break the rules. He looks back toward the gallows where the bodies are still swinging. That's not entertainment, that's a lesson. Make sure you learn it. You walk back to Cheapside in silence. The festive mood of the morning has drained out of the streets. People are going back to their shops, their workshops, their lives. The holiday is over. Tomorrow everything returns to normal. On the way, you pass a print shop. In the window, there's already a new engraving. The execution you just witnessed, rendered in black and white. The Tyburn tree with 7 figures dangling from it. A crowd of spectators rendered as a sea of tiny faces. In the corner, a caption gives the names of the dead and their crimes. The print was probably made days ago. They knew who was being executed, knew the date and time. All the artist had to do was add the final details. The printers work fast. By tomorrow these images will be selling all over London. By next week they'll be in coffee houses in Bristol and Edinburgh and Dublin. Death as commodity. Death as entertainment. Death as a warning to anyone who might consider stealing 40 guineas, or killing their husband, or poisoning a business partner. You keep walking, past St. Sepulchre's Church, where the bellman rings the execution bell to signal the condemned are on their way, past the streets where the crowd gathered this morning, now littered with discarded food and dropped coins and at least one shoe someone lost in the crush, past the corners where the Tyburn blossoms did their work, their pockets full of stolen purses. But you keep seeing those bodies, keep hearing the strange silence that fell over the crowd in those final moments. Keep thinking about the weeping man who couldn't stand on his own legs, who had to be held up just so they could execute him properly. This is London, the same city that builds magnificent cathedrals and fills coffee houses with ideas. The same city that trades with the whole world and produces artists like Hogarth and playwrights whose names will last for centuries. This city also hangs 7 people on a Monday morning and calls it justice, sells tickets to watch, prints commemorative engravings. You're not sure how to hold both of those things in your head at once, but you're learning. Back at the shop, Master Whitley is waiting. He doesn't ask if you went to Tyburn. He already knows. He sent you there after all. Did you see it? He asks. Yes, sir. All of it? Yes, sir. He nods. His face gives nothing away. Good. Now you know. Now get back to work. And just like that, it's over. The execution becomes another thing that happened. Another piece of London that you've absorbed. The ribbons need organising and there's a customer waiting, and the afternoon doesn't care what you saw this morning. You take your place behind the counter. You sell buttons and pins and packets of needles. Your hands move automatically, measuring and cutting and wrapping, while your mind is still at Tyburn, still watching 7 bodies swing. It gets easier, Jack said. You're not sure if that's a comfort or a curse. The week after Tyburn passes slowly. You find yourself thinking about it at odd moments. Measuring ribbon, you see the bodies swinging. Counting coins, you hear the crowd. It fades eventually, the way all things fade, but it leaves something behind. A weight you didn't have before. And then Sunday comes, and Sundays are different. The shop is closed. The law says so. No trading on the Lord's Day. Master Whitley takes this seriously. He's at St. Mary Le Bow for the morning service, Mrs. Whitley beside him, both of them dressed in their Sunday best. You're supposed to go to church too, all apprentices are. It's part of the deal, part of the moral instruction that comes with learning a trade. But Master Whitley doesn't check where you worship, and Jack has been telling you for weeks about a place you need to see. Greenwich, he says, lacing up his boots. best view in England. And the old sailors at the hospital will tell you stories that'll curl your hair. You could use a good view right now, something to replace the images in your head. So instead of church, you head east, down to the river, where the watermen are doing a steady Sunday trade, ferrying people away from the city. The fare to Greenwich is 4p, more than you'd like to spend, but Jack insists it's worth it. You can't walk to Greenwich, he says. Well, you can, but it takes half the day. The river's the only way. The wherry carries you downstream, past the tower, past the wharves and warehouses, past the ships anchored in the Pool of London waiting to unload their cargoes. The city falls away behind you. The buildings thin out. The air starts to smell different. Less coal smoke, less sewage, more salt and mud and open water. You've never been this far east. The Thames widens here, becoming something more than a river, becoming the gateway to the sea. The waterman points out landmarks as you pass. The Royal Dockyard at Deptford, where the Navy builds its ships. The fishing villages that cling to the riverbank, their boats pulled up on the mud at low tide. The marshy lands where reed cutters work waist-deep in water, harvesting material for thatching. And then, around a bend in the river, Greenwich appears. You see the buildings first. 2 massive structures rising from the waterfront, their white stone gleaming in the morning light. Columned facades, domed towers, symmetry that speaks of money and power and absolute confidence. These aren't just buildings, they're statements. They're Britain saying to the world, look at what we can build. Greenwich Hospital, Jack says, for old sailors, the ones who fought the French and the Spanish and lost their legs or their arms or their minds doing it. The Crown takes care of them here. The wherry pulls up to a landing stage. You climb out onto solid ground and stand there for a moment, just looking. The hospital isn't one building but a complex of them, arranged around courtyards and gardens. Christopher Wren designed it, the same architect who built St. Paul's. You can see the similarity in the domes, in the classical proportions, in the way the whole thing seems to reach toward heaven. But St. Paul's is about God. This place is about the sea. You walk through the grounds, past clipped lawns and careful plantings. Old men sit on benches in the morning sun. Some of them are missing limbs. One man has a wooden leg, another an empty sleeve pinned to his coat. A few have faces scarred by fire or marked by disease. These are the veterans, the men who sailed with admirals whose names you learned as a child, the men who fought battles in oceans you'll never see. One of them catches you staring. First time here, lad? He's old, 70 at least, maybe more. His face is weathered like ship timber, and he's got a patch over one eye. The other eye is bright blue and sharp with intelligence. Yes, sir, I'm an apprentice, from Cheapside. Cheapside. He says it like it's a foreign country. Ribbons and buttons, I'd wager. Something soft. Haberdashery, sir, he laughs. It's a good laugh, rough but warm. I was at sea before you were born, before your father was born, probably. 40 years I served, fought the Spanish at Cartagena, fought the French at Toulon, sailed around Cape Horn in a storm that killed half the crew. He taps his eye patch. Lost this at Portobello, splinter from a mast hit by cannon fire. You don't know what to say. What do you say to someone who's lived a life like that? Sit down, lad. You're making me nervous, standing there like a heron. You sit on the bench beside him. Jack has wandered off somewhere, probably chatting up a maid or looking for food. The old sailor doesn't seem to mind the company. What's your name? Will Marsden. I'm Josiah Cook, boatswain's mate, HMS Gloucester, retired. He says it formally, like he's introducing himself to an admiral. 40 years at sea, and now I live here watching the river go by. Do you miss it? The sea? He's quiet for a moment. Watches a boat pass on the river. Every damn day. It's a terrible life, boy. Bad food, worse conditions, captains who'll flog you for looking at them wrong. Men die of scurvy, of fever, of drowning, of everything you can imagine. I've seen friends fall from the rigging and break on the deck below. Seen ships go down with all hands in storms that came from nowhere. He pauses, takes a breath. And I'd go back tomorrow if they'd have me. There's nothing like it. The open ocean, the stars at night when you're 1,000 miles from land, the feeling when you sight home after months away. He shakes his head. You can't explain it to someone who hasn't lived it. The sea gets in your blood. You think about your own life, the shop on Cheapside, the ribbons and buttons and lace. It's a good life, or it will be. Safe, predictable. You'll never lose an eye to a cannon splinter or die of scurvy in some distant ocean, but you'll also never see the things Josiah Cook has seen. The hospital treats you well, you ask? Better than I deserve. 3 meals a day, a warm bed, a doctor when I need one, which is more and more often these days. He gestures at the grand buildings around them. All this, just for old sailors like me. The Crown takes care of its own. Eventually. There's something in his voice when he says, eventually. A bitterness, maybe, or just the weariness of a man who's seen too much. It wasn't always like this, he says. When I was young, old sailors just died in the street, begging for coins, sleeping under bridges. The hospital only opened about 50 years ago. Before that, we were on our own. You think about the beggars on Cheapside, the ones missing arms or legs. You never asked how they lost them. Maybe some of them were sailors too. Go up the hill, Josiah says, pointing toward the parkland behind the hospital. There's a tree at the top. One Tree Hill, they call it. Best view in England, they say, and for once they're right. You thank him and stand up to leave. On impulse, you reach into your pocket and find the 3p you were saving for the return fare. Here, you say, pressing the coins into his hand, for your service. He looks at the money, looks at you. For a moment, you think he might be offended. Then he smiles. It's a different smile than before, softer. You're a good lad, Will Marsden. Don't let the city grind that out of you. You find Jack near the river, eating a meat pie he bought from God knows where, and together you walk up the hill. The park rises steeply from the hospital grounds. The grass is green and well kept, the trees carefully maintained. This is royal land. Queens have walked these paths. Kings have hunted deer here. The view from the top is considered so valuable that they've made sure nothing obstructs it. And when you reach the summit, you understand why. London spreads out below you like a map come to life. The river curves through the heart of it, silver in the morning light. You can see the dome of St. Paul's rising above everything else, the tower squatting by the river, the jumbled rooftops of the city, smoke rising from 1,000 chimneys. The ships in the pool, so many of them they look like a forest of masts. And beyond all of it, in the haze of distance, the hills of Hampstead and Highgate, marking the northern edge of the world you've come to know. Told you, Jack says through a mouthful of pie. Best view in England. You stand there for a long time. The wind is stronger up here, carrying the smell of the sea. Below you, the elegant Queen's House sits nestled between the grand colonnades of the hospital. Boats move on the river. Birds wheel overhead. The whole world seems to be spread out for your inspection. This is what Britain looks like from above. the centre of an empire that reaches around the globe. Ships leave from these waters and don't return for years. They come back carrying sugar and tobacco and tea and silk. They carry slaves from Africa and gold from South America and spices from islands whose names you can't pronounce. All of it flows through London. All of it passes beneath your feet. You're such a small part of this. An apprentice haberdasher from Essex, 17 years old, knowing almost nothing about the world. The merchants at the Royal Exchange would step on you without noticing. The lords in their sedan chairs would look right through you. In the great machinery of empire, you're barely a cog. But you're here. You're part of it. Every ribbon you sell, every button, every packet of pins, it's a tiny piece of the same system that built the hospital below and filled the river with ships. Maybe that means something. The sun climbs higher. The morning service will be ending soon. Master Whitley will be walking home from St. Mary le Bow, and if he finds out you skipped church, there'll be trouble. But for now, for this moment, you're standing on top of the world. We should head back, Jack says, in a minute. You take one more look. Try to fix it in your memory. The curve of the river, the dome of St. Paul's, the ships and the buildings and the endless sprawl of streets and houses and lives. You came to London 6 months ago with nothing but a letter of introduction and a bundle of clothes. You didn't know anyone, didn't know anything. The city was overwhelming, terrifying, too big to comprehend. Now you know things. You know which streets to avoid at night. You know how to negotiate with a Southwark button merchant. You know what it looks like when 7 people die on a Monday morning. You know the smell of the Thames at low tide and the taste of cheap ale at the Feathers and the sound of the Bow bells calling you home. You're becoming a Londoner. The thought is strange. You still think of yourself as a boy from Essex, but Essex is fading. The village where you grew up, the fields where you used to help with the harvest, the faces of people you knew your whole life, they're becoming memories now, stories you tell yourself about who you used to be. Who you're becoming is something else, something shaped by this city and its rhythms, its noise and its smell and its endless hunger for commerce, its beauty and its brutality, its Hogarths and its hangings. Will, seriously, we need to go. You turn away from the view, start down the hill. The walk back to the river takes longer than the walk up. Your legs are tired, your mind is full. Jack chatters about something, a girl he met last week, a scheme he's heard about. The usual stream of talk that fills his silences. You barely hear him. On the wherry back to London, you watch the city grow larger as you approach. The buildings stack up against the sky. The noise starts to reach you, even from the water. The familiar reek of the Thames, the undertow of rot and sewage that you've somehow stopped noticing. Home. It's not the home you were born in. It's not the home where your parents still live and your brothers still work the fields. But it's home now. The place where you sleep and eat and work and learn. The place where you're making a life. The wherry pulls up to the stairs near the tower. You climb out, pay the waterman with money Jack lends you and start the walk back to Cheapside. The streets are quiet. Sunday afternoon. Most of the shops are shuttered. People are in their homes, resting before the week begins again. Tomorrow is Monday. There will be customers to serve and suppliers to negotiate with, and fabric to measure and money to count. The endless rhythm of trade that keeps the city alive. But that's tomorrow. Right now, you're walking through the quietest London gets. The church bells are ringing somewhere, marking the hours. The light is golden, late afternoon, the sun starting its descent toward the rooftops. You pass a beggar on a corner, an old man missing one arm. You think about Josiah Cook in his comfortable bed at Greenwich Hospital, and you think about this man sleeping on the street, and you wonder what the difference is between them. Luck, maybe, or connections, or just the random chance of being in the right place at the right time. You give him a halfpenny. It's almost the last of your money. He looks at you with eyes that have seen too much. God bless you, young master. You keep walking. The shop is ahead. The shuttered windows, the familiar sign, the door that leads to the life you've chosen. Master Whitley will be home by now. Supper will be cooking. The evening will pass in the usual routine of chores and conversation, and the slow settling into sleep. And then tomorrow, and then the day after that, and all the days that follow, stretching out ahead of you like the view from One Tree Hill, too vast to comprehend, too full of possibility to ignore. You push open the door and step inside. After Greenwich, something shifts, not dramatically, not in any way you could point to and say, there, that's when it changed. But something is different now. The city feels less like a monster trying to swallow you, and more like a place where you might actually belong. The weeks turn into months. The months start to blur together. You learn the rhythms of the shop so deeply that they become part of you. The morning opening, the midday lull, the afternoon rush, the evening counting of coins. You know which suppliers are honest and which ones pad their invoices. You know which customers will pay full price and which ones will haggle until you're both exhausted. You know the weight of a bolt of silk in your hands, the feel of good lace between your fingers, the slight differences in thread that mark the difference between quality and garbage. Master Whitley watches you less now. He trusts you with the counter when he's busy elsewhere. He sends you on errands that require judgment, not just delivery. Last week, he asked your opinion on a new supplier's samples. He listened to what you said. That felt like something. Jack finishes his apprenticeship in the spring. 7 years done, his time complete. He's a journeyman now, free to work for wages, free to move between shops, free in ways you won't be for another 5.5 years. He takes a position at a mercer's on Lombard Street, better pay and better prospects, and just like that, he's gone. You get a new roommate in the attic, a boy from Kent named Samuel, 15 years old, even greener than you were when you arrived. He jumps at every noise, gets lost on every errand, looks at the city like it might swallow him whole. You remember feeling like that. It wasn't so long ago. It gets easier, you tell him one night, when he's lying awake in the dark, too overwhelmed to sleep. Give it 6 months. You'll know the streets. You'll know the people. It starts to feel like home. He doesn't believe you. You can hear it in his silence. But he will. Eventually. The seasons change. Summer brings heat and stench. The Thames reeking so badly that even the watermen complain. The whole city seems to simmer. Tempers fraying. People moving slower through streets that feel like ovens. You learn to work in the early mornings and late evenings when the heat is bearable, and to rest during the brutal afternoons. Autumn brings rain and mud, the streets turning to rivers of filth that soak through your shoes and splash up onto your stockings. You learn to walk close to the buildings where the ground is slightly higher, and to carry a stick to test the depth of puddles before stepping in. Some of those puddles are ankle deep, some are deeper. Winter brings cold so deep that the water in your washing basin freezes overnight, and you have to break the ice with your fist just to wash your face. The shop is frigid in the mornings until the fire catches. Your fingers grow stiff and clumsy, fumbling with buttons and needles. You learn to keep a small brazier near the counter, feeding it coal throughout the day just to keep your hands working. But winter also brings the frost fairs. When the Thames freezes solid, which it does some years, the whole city pours onto the ice. Vendors set up stalls, people roast oxen over open fires. There's music and dancing and the strange joy of walking across a river that usually flows beneath you. You spend a Sunday on the ice with Samuel, teaching him to slide on his boots the way Jack taught you, both of you falling and laughing and falling again. And then spring. The ice melts, the mud dries, the first green shoots appear in the window boxes of the houses nearby. The air smells almost clean for a few days before the summer stench returns. Your first full year in London complete. Master Whitley marks the occasion with a small gift. A pair of gloves, good quality, made from leather soft as butter. They're worth more than anything you own. You've done well, he says, better than most. Keep it up, and there might be a future here for you. A future. You think about what that means. 5 more years of apprenticeship, then however long as a journeyman, saving money, building reputation, learning everything there is to learn. Then maybe, if you're lucky, if you're good, if the stars align in your favour, your own shop someday. Your own sign above the door. Your own apprentices sleeping in the attic, learning the trade the way you're learning it now. You've started noticing things you never noticed before. The way Master Whitley arranges the shop window to catch the morning light. The way he positions the expensive goods at eye level, the cheaper stuff down below where people have to bend to see it. The way he greets regular customers by name, remembers their families, asks about their health. It's not just selling, it's theatre, performance, making people feel special so they spend more than they planned. You're learning that too. Last week a woman came in looking for plain ribbon, the cheapest kind, for her daughter's dress. You showed her the plain ribbon. Then, casually, you showed her something slightly nicer. Just a touch more colour, a bit more sheen. Not much more expensive, you said, but the way it catches the light, your daughter will feel like a princess. She bought the nicer ribbon and some buttons to match, and a packet of pins she hadn't even known she needed. Master Whitley saw the whole thing. He didn't say anything, but later he nodded at you across the shop. Just a small nod. You're learning. It seems impossibly far away, your own shop. But so did London once when you were just a boy in Essex dreaming about the city. On quiet evenings, when the shop is closed and the work is done, you sometimes sit by the window in the back room and watch the street go dark. The lamplighters make their rounds, though their efforts barely push back the night. Candles appear in windows up and down Cheapside. The sounds of the day fade into the sounds of evening. Tavern noise and distant music and the occasional shout of a watchman calling the hour. Mrs. Whitley serves supper, the same simple food as always. Mutton or beef, vegetables from the market, bread that's slightly stale by evening but still good enough. She asks about your day sometimes, in her quiet way, listens to your answers, offers small pieces of advice that turn out to be more useful than you expected. The customers don't just buy fabric, she told you once. They buy how you make them feel. Remember that. You remember it. After supper, there's time to yourself. An hour, maybe 2, before exhaustion takes over. You could go to the Feathers with the other apprentices. You do, sometimes. But more often lately you stay in. Read a little when you can borrow a book. Think about the day. Plan for tomorrow. London never fully sleeps. There's always something moving, someone stirring, some business being conducted in the shadows. but it gets quieter. The mad energy of the daylight hours settles into something more manageable, something almost peaceful. You think about the people you've met, Hogarth with his paint-stained smock and sharp questions, Josiah Cook with his one eye and his 40 years at sea, the waterman who rowed you across the Thames on your first trip to Southwark, the link boy who guided you through the dark streets, Thomas Arne from Drury Lane, who you never did visit, though you still have his invitation tucked away somewhere. All of them living their lives in this same city. All of them part of the same vast machinery that keeps London running. You think about the things you've seen, the Royal Exchange with its merchants making fortunes, the gin shops with their desperate souls drinking themselves to death, the execution at Tyburn, the bodies swinging, the crowd counting seconds, the view from One Tree Hill, the whole world spread out below you like a promise. This city contains everything, every kind of person, every kind of life, every kind of death. It grinds some people down to nothing and lifts others up to heights they never imagined. The difference between the two often comes down to luck, or connections, or simply being in the right place at the right time. You've been lucky so far. A good master, a decent position, your health intact, your prospects reasonable. Not everyone can say the same. Tomorrow there will be more customers, more ribbons to measure, more buttons to count, more negotiations to win or lose, the endless dance of commerce that keeps the city alive. You'll wake before dawn and work until after dark and fall into bed exhausted, the same as today, the same as yesterday, the same as all the days stretching out ahead. But tonight, you're just tired. The attic room is cold. Samuel is already asleep, curled up on his side of the straw mattress, breathing slow and steady. The sounds of the city drift up through the floorboards. A cart passing in the street below, someone laughing in a nearby tavern, the distant bark of a dog. You pull the thin blanket up to your chin and stare at the ceiling. It's strange, the person you're becoming. Not the boy from Essex anymore, not quite a Londoner yet. Something in between, something still taking shape. Your mother would barely recognise you. The way you talk now, with London slang creeping into your speech. The way you move through crowds without flinching. The way you can look at a bolt of fabric and know its quality in seconds, its origin in minutes, its proper price without even thinking. She'd be proud, probably. Your father too, though he'd never say it. They sent you here with nothing but hope, and so far that hope is paying off. You're learning a trade, you're making your way, you're surviving. In a city that eats so many people alive, surviving is no small thing. The candle on the windowsill gutters and dies. Darkness fills the room, soft and complete. Just the faint glow of moonlight through the tiny window and the sounds of London settling into night. Your eyes are heavy. The day's walking has caught up with you. Your legs ache pleasantly. Your mind is finally quiet. The endless chatter of thoughts fading into something like peace. You think about the years ahead, the challenges you can't yet imagine, the opportunities that might or might not come, the person you'll be at 25, at 30, at 50. Will you still be here on Cheapside running a shop of your own? Will you have found something else, some other path through this maze of a city? Will you even still be alive? Or will London have claimed you the way it claims so many? You can't know. Nobody can. The future is as dark as the room around you, as unknowable as the stars hidden behind the coal smoke and the clouds. But that's all right. You've learned something this year, something they don't teach you in the shop, something Master Whitley never put into words. You've learned that you can handle things, that the city that seemed so terrifying when you arrived is actually just a place, a big place, a complicated place, a place that will test you in ways you never expected, but still just a place, full of people trying to get through their days, same as you. The boy who stepped off that wagon from Essex, the one who flinched at every noise and got lost on every corner, he's still in there somewhere. You can still feel him sometimes when something unexpected happens, but he's not in charge anymore. The person in charge is someone new, someone who knows how to navigate crowds and negotiate prices and find his way home in the dark, someone who belongs here. Right now, in this moment, you're warm enough, fed enough, safe enough. You have a roof over your head and work that matters and people who are counting on you to show up tomorrow and do it all again. That's more than a lot of people have. That's enough. The sounds of the city grow fainter, or maybe you're just listening less. The boundary between waking and sleeping starts to blur, the way it does when you're truly exhausted, when your body has decided that consciousness is no longer required. Somewhere out there, London continues, the night watchmen walk their rounds, the gin shops serve their desperate customers, the watermen tie up their boats and count their coins, the merchants sleep in their grand houses dreaming of profits, the beggars huddle in doorways dreaming of warmth, and you, Will Marsden, apprentice haberdasher, boy from Essex, dreamer of dreams you can't yet name, you sink into the darkness. Tomorrow will come soon enough. But for now, there's just this, the softness of sleep reaching up to claim you, the quiet of the attic room, the steady breathing of the boy beside you, the distant heartbeat of a city that never quite stops. You close your eyes. The last thing you hear is the church bells somewhere far away, marking an hour you're too tired to count, and then nothing, just rest, just the long, slow drift into dreams. Centuries will pass. The London you know will change beyond recognition. The buildings you walk past every day will crumble and be rebuilt. The streets will be paved and lit and filled with machines you couldn't imagine. The Thames will be tamed. The plague will be conquered. The hangings will end. But people will still live here, still work here, still dream here, still fall asleep at night with the sounds of the city in their ears, wondering what tomorrow will bring. Some things don't change. The human heart doesn't change. The need for rest at the end of a long day, that doesn't change either. So let it come. Let sleep take you the way it took Will Marsden in his attic room on Cheapside 280 years ago. Let the world fade. Let the noise quiet. Let your thoughts slow and soften and finally stop. You've earned this rest. Take it and dream of whatever dreams may come. Good night.